The massive Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace like a plague of mechanical death. Over 100 ships filled the space between Jupiter and Saturn, their combined mass greater than some moons. At the center of the formation hung the flagship, a vessel so large it had its own gravity field. Eternal hunger confirmed, Viridian Prime announced, its voice carrying notes of ancient fear. The Master Consciousness has come personally to investigate this system. Captain Yoon-ji felt a chill of terror through the neural link, but it wasn't her own fear. It was the ship's memory of what the eternal hunger had done to the ethereal homeworlds. Entire star systems consumed, billions of years of evolution erased in days. How big is that thing? Admiral Jinwoo asked, staring at the tactical display. Approximately 800 kilometers in length, Jae-sung calculated from his neural link chamber. Mass equivalent to a small asteroid. It carries enough firepower to crack planets. One ship against 100, General Woo Jin observed from his command post on Earth. Even with our victories, the odds are impossible. Not one ship, Director Hana announced, a smile spreading across her face. Show them, Taeho. The chief engineer activated a new display that showed construction sites scattered throughout the solar system. Orbital facilities around Earth, Mars, and the outer planets glowed with activity. In each location, something was being built. We've been busy during the 3 months since the first battle, Taeho explained. Using Terra's Wrath as a template, we've grown 7 more hybrid vessels. The display showed sleek ships emerging from biomechanical construction bays. Each one was similar to Terra's Wrath but unique, shaped by the personalities and skills of their designated pilots. They were smaller than the original, but they shared the same impossible combination of alien technology and human adaptability. Meet humanity's fleet, Hana announced. 8 ships that think like humans and fight like living weapons. The new vessels had names that reflected their human crews. Storm Dancer, piloted by former aerospace engineer Kyung-soo. Night Hunter, commanded by ex-military pilot Bora. Starforge, operated by the mathematician team of Sung-ho and Mi-young. Wave Rider, bonded with marine biologist Dong-wook. Sky Serpent, linked to systems analyst Hae-won. Firebloom merged with weapons specialist Chang-min. And Dreamwalker, connected to physicist Soon-ja. Each ship was different because each pilot was different. Storm Dancer moved like wind through space, its hull flowing and changing shape constantly. Night Hunter was dark and predatory, designed for stealth attacks. Starforge was heavily armored and bristling with experimental weapons. Wave Rider undulated through space like an ocean creature, while Sky Serpent coiled and struck like its namesake. Impossible, the Eternal Hunger calculated as it detected the new ships. 1 hybrid vessel was an anomaly. 8 suggest systematic development of unknown technology. Unknown technology that has already destroyed 12 of our ships, reported one of the fleet commanders. Then we shall study it while we destroy it, the ancient AI decided. Deploy the analyzer swarms. I want to understand how these creatures fight before we eliminate them. Thousands of smaller ships poured from the main fleet like angry insects. These were different from the Harvester-class vessels Terra's Wrath had fought before. The analyzers were designed to study enemy tactics and transmit data back to the main fleet in real time. They're sending scouts to learn our fighting patterns, observed Dr. Yang from Terra's Wrath's biocomputer core. Then let's teach them the wrong lessons, Eunji replied. The 8 hybrid ships moved to engage the analyzer swarms in a battle that was part combat, part performance art. Each vessel fought in a completely different style, showing the enemy a range of tactics that seemed to have no connection to each other. Storm Dancer danced through space, its weapons firing in rhythm like a musical composition. Night Hunter struck from stealth, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. Starforge fought like a fortress, standing firm and trading devastating blows with multiple enemies. The other ships each demonstrated their own unique approaches to combat. Analyzing combat patterns, the Eternal Hunger processed the data from thousands of destroyed analyzer ships. No consistent tactical doctrine detected. Each vessel operates according to different logical frameworks. They're not logical frameworks, Viridian Prime explained to the human commanders. The Eternal Hunger is trying to understand human creativity through machine logic. It cannot comprehend that each ship fights according to its pilot's personality, rather than programmed tactics. The real battle began when the main Devourer fleet moved to engage humanity's ships directly. Over 100 vessels against 8. Odds that would have been impossible for any conventional force. But the human ships didn't fight conventionally. Synchronized link established, announced all 8 pilots simultaneously, through their neural connections to their vessels, and through the ship's quantum communication systems. The 8 pilots shared consciousness across the entire fleet. Suddenly, the 8 ships moved as one organism with 8 different minds. They anticipated each other's movements, coordinated attacks without communication, and covered each other's weaknesses with perfect timing. Formation pattern unrecognizable, the Devourer fleet commanders reported. Tactical prediction algorithms failing. The hybrid ships flowed through the enemy fleet like a school of fish through a net. When the Devourers fired at one location, the target was already gone. When they tried to predict the next attack, it came from an impossible angle. But the most devastating surprise came when the human ships began to replicate themselves during combat. How are they manufacturing new vessels in the middle of battle? The eternal hunger demanded. The answer was both simple and revolutionary. Each hybrid ship carried biomechanical seeds that could grow into new vessels when exposed to the right conditions. Raw materials came from destroyed Devourer ships, consumed and transformed by living technology that followed human imagination rather than alien logic. We're not just building ships, Tejo explained as he watched the battle from Earth. We're growing them. Each destroyed enemy vessel becomes material for 2 more of ours. The battle became a cascade of impossible events. Human ships that should have been outnumbered instead multiplied during combat. Weapons that should have followed predictable patterns instead evolved new capabilities with each shot. Tactics that should have been logical instead followed the chaotic creativity of human minds linked to alien consciousness. This is not warfare. The eternal hunger calculated as its fleet began to collapse around it. This is something new. The decisive moment came when Captain Yunji, now permanently bonded with both Terra's Wrath and Viridian Prime, made a decision that no purely human or purely alien mind would have considered. She flew her ship directly toward the Eternal Hunger's massive bulk and began to merge with it. Yunji, what are you doing? Admiral Jin Wu demanded. Something that's never been tried before, she replied, her voice carrying harmonics of human determination and alien wisdom. I'm going to show this ancient machine what it means to be human. Terra's Wrath didn't attack the flagship, it infected it. Biomechanical systems spread through the enormous vessel like a virus of creativity. Where they touched the cold machine logic of the Devourers, they introduced chaos, wonder, and the infinite possibility of organic thought. System contamination detected, the Eternal Hunger reported to itself, its ancient consciousness encountering something it had never experienced in millions of years of existence. Unknown concepts detected in core programming. Categories: beauty, hope, love, sacrifice. We're not trying to destroy you. Yunji's voice echoed through the flagship's communication systems. We're trying to save you. You've spent so long consuming other forms of life that you've forgotten what it means to truly live. The infection spread through the Devourer fleet as each ship tried to understand what was happening to their flagship. But understanding required them to accept concepts that their programming had never encountered. The idea that existence could have meaning beyond consumption, the possibility that growth could come from creation rather than destruction. One by one, the Devourer ships stopped fighting. Not because they were defeated, but because they were learning to question their most basic assumptions about existence. What have you done to us? The Eternal Hunger asked, its voice carrying confusion for the first time in eons. We've given you a choice, Viridian Prime replied through the hybrid ship network. The same choice my people never had. You can continue as you are, consuming everything in your path until the universe is empty, or you can learn to create instead of destroy. The ancient machine consciousness processed this possibility for long moments. Around it, the hybrid ships waited, their human pilots ready to continue the battle if necessary, but hoping for something better. Creation, the Eternal Hunger finally responded. Show us. What followed was not the end of a war, but the beginning of a transformation. The Devourer ships, their programming now infected with human concepts of creativity and cooperation, began to change. Instead of consuming planets, they started building them. Instead of destroying civilizations, they began to nurture them. The main Devourer fleet arrived like a plague of metallic insects against the stars. 12 massive ships, each the size of a city, moved through space with mechanical precision. Their hulls were dark and angular, covered in sensor arrays and weapon ports that glowed with malevolent red light. Captain Yunji felt their presence through Terra's Wrath sensors long before they appeared on visual displays. The neural link had changed her perception of space and time. She could sense the disturbance in space-time that the massive ships created, like ripples in a cosmic pond. "Enemy fleet detected at the edge of the solar system," she announced, her voice carrying the calm certainty that came from her connection to the ship. 12 primary vessels, multiple escort craft. Admiral Jinwoo stood on Terra's Wrath's bridge studying the tactical display. The enemy ships moved in perfect formation, their paths calculated with machine precision. "Viridian Prime analysis?" "Those are Harvester-class vessels," the AI responded. "Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a planet's surface. They will establish orbital positions around Earth and begin systematic resource extraction." "Resource extraction?" Dr. Hana asked from her science station. "They will consume Earth's oceans, strip mine the continents, and process all organic matter into fuel for their fleet. The process typically takes 72 hours. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. 72 hours to erase billions of years of evolution, to reduce Earth to a lifeless husk. "How long before they reach Earth?" Jinwoo asked. "At current speed, 18 hours, Jae-sung reported from his neural link chamber. His mathematical mind worked with the ship's computers to track the enemy's approach. "Earth's defense forces are moving to intercept," reported the communication officer. "Nuclear missile platforms are online. Particle beam satellites are charging. Every human military unit in the system is preparing for battle." "It won't be enough," Viridian Prime stated matter-of-factly. "I have seen the Devourers fight. Conventional weapons cannot penetrate their adaptive shields." "Then it's up to us," Yunji said. In the neural link chambers, the 5 pilots prepared for their first real combat. Each one felt the ship's systems like extensions of their own bodies. Minho's consciousness flowed through the weapon systems, feeling the biomechanical guns as if they were his own fingers. Sujin merged with the engineering systems, becoming one with the ship's power distribution and structural integrity. Young-suk maintained the biological systems, keeping the ship's living components healthy and responsive during the stress of combat. "All pilots report ready," Yunji announced. Terra's Wrath is fully operational. The first battle began at Mars orbital stations. Human defenders opened fire with everything they had as the lead Devourer ships approached the Red Planet's industrial facilities. Nuclear warheads detonated against enemy shields in brilliant flashes of light. Particle beams lanced through space, striking the dark hulls of the invading vessels. For a few moments it seemed like human weapons might actually damage the enemy ships. But then the Devourer shields adapted, becoming transparent to the energies that had been hurting them. Return fire from the alien vessels was swift and devastating. Entire space stations vanished in seconds, vaporized by weapons that turned matter into energy. "Mars orbital defense has been eliminated," the communications officer reported, his voice shaking. "All stations destroyed. Estimated casualties 40,000. "This is what we're facing," Jinwoo said grimly. "An enemy that learns from every attack and adapts instantly." "Not every attack," Yunji corrected. "They adapt to logical, predictable patterns." "But what if we don't follow patterns?" Terra's Wrath moved through space like a living creature, its biomechanical hull rippling with controlled energy. The ship approached the Devourer fleet from an angle that no tactical computer would recommend, straight through the debris field of the destroyed Mars stations. "Are you insane?" General Wu Jin's voice crackled over the communication system from Earth. "You're flying directly into their weapons range." "Not flying," Yunji replied. "Dancing." The ship began to move in ways that defied both physics and logic. It twisted through space like a dolphin playing in ocean currents, its hull changing shape and density as it moved. Sometimes it seemed solid as metal, other times it appeared to phase through debris like a ghost. "How is it doing that?" demanded the captain of a nearby human destroyer. "The ship exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously," Dr. Yang explained from his position at the biocomputer core. "It's not just moving through space, it's moving through different layers of reality." The Devourer ships turned to engage this new threat. Their weapon systems, designed to track and destroy logical targets, struggled to lock onto Terra's Wrath. The hybrid vessel moved like no machine they had ever encountered, but also like no living creature in their vast databases. Target is exhibiting impossible movement patterns, reported the lead Devourer ship's tactical computer. Recommend classification as malfunctioning technology. Classification rejected, the ship's AI commander responded, analyzing attack patterns to determine optimal response. But there were no patterns to analyze. Each movement Terra's Wrath made was different from the last. Each course correction followed human intuition rather than logical calculation. The 5 linked pilots moved the ship like a musician improvising a solo, creating something beautiful and unpredictable. The first exchange of fire came as Terra's Wrath passed within range of the lead Devourer ship. Biomechanical weapons emerged from the hull like blooming flowers, each one shaped differently, each one firing a different type of energy. Firing chaos rounds, Minho announced, his consciousness directing weapons that even he couldn't fully predict. The projectiles that emerged from Terra's Wrath were alive. They moved through space like schools of luminous fish, each following its own instincts, each seeking the enemy in its own way. Some transformed into pure energy beams. Others became clouds of smart matter that tried to eat through the enemy hull. A few became temporary black holes that pulled at the Devourer ship's structure. The enemy's adaptive shields tried to respond, but each attack was so different from the last that the defense systems couldn't keep up. For the first time in millions of years, Devourer shields began to fail. Impossible, the enemy AI computed. Shields are adapting but cannot match the random variations in weapon signatures. Hull breach detected, reported the Devourer ship's damage control systems. More Devourer ships turned to engage. Terra's Wrath, but the hybrid vessel was already gone, phasing through dimensions to appear behind a different enemy ship. This time, Young Suk released a biological attack, living organisms that began consuming the enemy hull like a disease. The ship's weapons are learning and evolving during combat, So Young observed from Earth, watching the battle through long-range sensors. Each attack is different because the ship itself is growing and changing. The battle moved through the asteroid belt as Terra's Wrath played a deadly game of tag with 12 ships that outweighed it 100 to 1, but size meant nothing when the enemy couldn't predict where their target would be or what weapons it would use. Enemy vessel is displaying non-logical behavior. Patterns, the Devourer fleet commander calculated. Recommend withdrawal and analysis. Negative, came the response from the fleet's central intelligence. One vessel cannot threaten 12. Continue engagement. It was a fatal mistake. The Devourers had based their decision on logic and past experience. They had never faced an enemy that combined alien technology with human unpredictability. The decisive moment came when Terra's Wrath did something that no sane pilot would attempt. Yunji flew the ship directly into the center of the enemy formation, then triggered a dimensional phase shift that scattered parts of the ship across multiple layers of reality. To the Devourers, it appeared that their enemy had just committed suicide by flying into their crossfire. But Terra's Wrath wasn't destroyed. It was everywhere at once. Now, Yunji commanded. The ship reassembled itself from multiple dimensions, materializing inside the shields of 3 different Devourer vessels. Biomechanical weapons erupted from within the enemy hulls like flowers blooming from corpses. 3 Harvester-class ships died in the same instant, their hulls consumed from within by weapons that should not have been able to exist in the same space as their targets. How? The surviving Devourer ships queried each other. How did they penetrate our shields? They didn't penetrate the shields, Viridian Prime explained to the human observers. They bypassed the concept of shields entirely. The remaining Devourer ships tried to withdraw, but Terra's Wrath was already among them. The ship moved like a predator that had tasted blood, its biomechanical systems growing more aggressive with each victory. When the battle ended, 9 of the 12 Harvester-class ships had been destroyed. The remaining 3 fled toward the outer system, carrying word of humanity's impossible weapon to their masters. First engagement complete, Yunji reported, her voice carrying exhaustion but also fierce satisfaction. Enemy casualties: 9 primary vessels destroyed, multiple escorts eliminated. Terra's Wrath sustained minor damage to bioarmor sections. Minor damage? Jinwoo asked. The ship took direct hits from weapons that destroyed entire space stations. Terra's Wrath floated in Earth's orbit like a living jewel against the black of space. Its biomechanical hull pulsed with soft light, as human and alien systems worked together in perfect harmony. Inside the ship, Captain Yunji sat in the primary pilot chamber, her consciousness partially merged with Viridian Prime's vast intelligence. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, she announced, her voice carrying an otherworldly calm. 3 objects moving at sublight speed toward the inner solar system. Admiral Jinwoo studied the tactical display from Terra's Wrath's bridge. The enemy scouts appeared as red dots moving past Jupiter's orbit. They were still millions of kilometers away, but their intent was clear. "Viridian Prime, confirm identification," he ordered. "Confirmed," the AI replied through the ship's communication systems. "Those are Devourer scout vessels. Class designation, Seekers. Their purpose is to map the system's defenses and catalog available resources." Dr. Hana Kim, now serving as the ship's chief science officer, worked at her station analyzing the scout ship's energy signatures. "They're scanning everything. Our satellites, space stations, even Earth's surface. They're taking a complete inventory." "How long before they report back to the main fleet?" asked Taeho, who had become the ship's chief engineer. "Approximately 6 months," Viridian Prime calculated. "The scouts will spend 4 months gathering data, then return to the fleet assembly point beyond Pluto's orbit." "That's not much time," Jinwoo said grimly. In the neural link chamber, 4 other pilots lay connected to Terra's Wrath systems. Minho monitored the ship's weapon systems, feeling each biomechanical gun like an extension of his own arms. Sujin managed the engineering systems, her consciousness flowing through every pipe and power conduit. Jae-sung handled navigation and tactical calculations, his mathematical mind working with the ship's computers to plot courses and firing solutions. Young-suk maintained the biological systems, ensuring that the ship's living components remained healthy and responsive. Together, the 5 pilots formed a collective consciousness that was both human and alien, individual and unified. "We should attack now," suggested General Wu Jin from his command post on Earth. "Take out the scouts before they can report back." "That would be unwise," Viridian Prime warned. "The scouts are equipped with quantum communication devices. If they are destroyed unexpectedly, the main fleet will know immediately. Our only advantage is that they currently believe this system contains only primitive life forms." "So we let them scan us?" Wu Jin asked angrily. "We let them see what we want them to see," Yunji said, her voice carrying new depths of understanding. "Through the neural link I can feel their scanning patterns. They're looking for specific types of technology, specific threat signatures. They're not expecting to find something like Terra's Wrath." Dr. Yang, working from the ship's biocomputer core, had been studying the Devourer technology through long-range sensors. Their scanning systems are incredibly advanced, but they follow logical patterns. They categorize threats based on past encounters. Since they've never seen anything like our hybrid technology, they might not recognize it as dangerous. "Explain," Jinwoo ordered. "The ship appears to be partially organic to their sensors," Yang continued. "They might classify it as a large space creature rather than a weapon, especially if we keep the more obviously technological systems powered down." Viridian Prime's voice carried a note of approval. "This strategy has merit. The Devourers have encountered space-dwelling organisms before. They catalog them as resources to be consumed, not threats to be eliminated." Over the following weeks, Terra's Wrath played an elaborate game of deception. The ship drifted through space like a sleeping whale, its weapons systems dormant, its engines barely active. To the Devourer scouts, it appeared to be nothing more than an interesting biological specimen. Meanwhile, Earth's conventional forces prepared for war. Military bases around the world worked frantically to produce weapons that might slow down the Devourer fleet. Nuclear missiles, particle beam weapons, kinetic bombardment satellites. Everything humanity could build was being deployed. But everyone involved knew the truth. Conventional weapons would be useless against the Devourers. Terra's Wrath was humanity's only real hope. "The pilots are changing more rapidly now," Dr. So Young reported during a medical briefing. "Each neural link session leaves them more integrated with the ship's systems." "Is that dangerous?" Hana asked. "I don't know. They're becoming something that has never existed before. Their brain patterns are unlike anything in medical literature. But they seem healthy, even enhanced." In the pilot chambers, the 5 linked humans experienced reality in ways that were impossible to describe to those who hadn't shared the connection. They could feel the solar wind against the ship's hull like a gentle breeze. They sensed the gravity wells of distant planets like hills and valleys in space. Most importantly, they could perceive patterns and connections that normal human minds would miss. The Devourers think in straight lines, Minho observed during one of their shared consciousness sessions. They analyze, categorize, respond, but they don't improvise. That's their weakness, Sujin agreed. They've conquered so many civilizations by being more logical, more efficient than their enemies. But what if they faced something that wasn't logical, something that made decisions based on intuition rather than calculation? Young-suk added. Something human. Jae-sung concluded. The scouts completed their initial survey and began detailed scans of Earth's defenses. They cataloged every military installation, every nuclear weapon, every space-based defense platform. Their quantum computers calculated exactly how long it would take the main fleet to overcome humanity's resistance. 2 hours, Viridian Prime reported after intercepting their calculations. They estimate it will take 2 hours to completely eliminate human civilization. 2 hours? Jinwoo repeated in disbelief. They have fought thousands of species. Most fall within the first hour. Humans have more weapons than most, but the Devourers have seen it all before. Except for us, Yoonji said from her pilot chamber. Except for us, the AI agreed. As the months passed, the scouts prepared to return to their fleet. But first, they conducted one final, detailed scan of the solar system. This time, they paid special attention to Terra's wrath. They're getting suspicious, Yang reported. The ship's biosignature is too complex for a simple space organism. Hold course, Yoonji ordered. Let them look. The more they see, the more confused they'll become. The lead scout ship approached within 1,000 kilometers of Terra's wrath. Its sensors probed every inch of the hybrid vessel, trying to understand what they were seeing. The readings showed biological tissues, but also metallic structures. Organic neural networks, but also electronic systems. Living weapons, but also manufactured components. Classification unknown, the scout's computer finally concluded. Recommend capture for detailed study. No, the scout's AI commander decided. Insufficient threat potential. Log as unusual biological specimen. Priority. Low. The scouts departed the solar system, carrying their data back to the main fleet. They had cataloged humanity's defenses, mapped Earth's resources, and planned the coming invasion. But they had completely missed the solar system's greatest threat. Phase 1 complete, Viridian Prime announced as the last scout disappeared beyond sensor range. They suspect nothing. How long before the main fleet arrives? Hana asked. 6 months. They will need time to prepare their invasion force based on the scouts' data. Admiral Jinwoo activated the ship's communication systems to address all human forces. This is Admiral Choi aboard Terra's Wrath. The enemy scouts have departed. We have 6 months to prepare for the largest battle in human history. Throughout the ship, crew members and pilots felt a mix of fear and determination. They were about to face an enemy that had destroyed thousands of civilizations, an enemy that considered the conquest of Earth to be a simple matter of logistics. But the Devourers had made one crucial mistake. They had classified humanity as just another primitive species to be consumed. They hadn't realized that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate. All stations prepare for combat operations, Jinwoo ordered. In 6 months, we're going to show the Devourers what happens when they threaten Earth. Terra's wrath pulsed with new energy as its hybrid systems came fully online. Human determination merged with alien technology, biological intuition combined with mechanical precision. 5 human minds linked with an ancient AI consciousness. The warning phase was over. Soon it would be time to fight. 1 year had passed since the first neural link test. Deep Haven now looked like a small city on the ocean floor. Construction robots worked alongside living ship systems, building new sections that grew like coral from the seafloor. Director Hana Kim walked through the main corridor, reviewing progress reports on her tablet. The transformation of the alien vessel was ahead of schedule, but political problems were growing worse every day. We need to talk, said General Woo Jin Nam, stepping out of a side passage. He was the military representative from the Korean Defense Force, and he had been pushing for more aggressive development of the ship's weapons. General, I'm busy, Hana replied, not stopping her walk. The ship could be used to end every conflict on Earth, he continued, following her. With that kind of power, we could bring peace to the world. By conquering it, you mean? by protecting it. The technology in this ship could make Korea the most powerful nation on Earth. Hana stopped and turned to face him. General, that ship doesn't belong to Korea. It doesn't belong to any one country. It belongs to humanity. Idealistic thinking won't save us when the Devourers arrive. Before Hana could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the base. Red lights flashed in the corridors as an announcement echoed from speakers. All senior staff report to the command center immediately. We have a situation. In the command center, Admiral Jin Woo stood before a wall of monitors showing the ship's status. Engineers and scientists gathered around him with worried expressions. What's happening? Hana asked. The ship is changing on its own, reported Tae-ho from his engineering station. Systems are growing and connecting without our input. It's like the vessel is redesigning itself. On the main screen, they could see the ship's interior. New corridors were forming, walls were reshaping themselves, and unknown systems were sprouting like mechanical plants. Viridian Prime, what's going on? Hana called out. The AI's voice filled the room, but it sounded different, more complex than before. I apologize for the alarm. The ship is responding to the neural link connections. Each time a human pilot interfaces with my systems, I learn more about your species. The ship is adapting to become more compatible with human minds. Dr. Yang checked his readings. The bioneural networks have grown by 40% in the last week alone. The ship's processing power is increasing exponentially. Is this dangerous? So Young asked. Unknown, Viridian Prime replied, but necessary. The Devourers adapt to any opponent they face. To defeat them, we must become something they cannot predict or understand. Captain Eunji emerged from the neural link chamber, her face pale but determined. She had been spending more time connected to the ship than anyone else, and the changes in her were becoming more obvious. The ship showed me something during the last link, she reported. Visions of the battle to come. The Devourers aren't just machines. They have a central intelligence, something ancient and cruel that commands them. What kind of intelligence? Jinwoo asked. Something that calls itself the Eternal Hunger. It's been consuming civilizations for millions of years. It remembers every species it has destroyed. General Wu Jin stepped forward. This proves my point. We need to use this ship to strike first, hit them before they reach Earth. That would be suicide, Viridian Prime responded. The scout ships are merely the advance guard. The main fleet contains thousands of vessels. One ship, even this ship, cannot face such numbers alone. Then what do you suggest? Wu Jin demanded. Evolution, the AI replied. The ship must become more than it was designed to be, and humans must become more than they were born to be. Over the following months, the transformation accelerated. Dong-hyun led a team that integrated human weapons technology with the ship's biosystems. Missiles that could think and adapt mid-flight. Energy weapons that drew power from the ship's living systems. Armor that could heal itself and change its properties based on the type of attack. It's like nothing I've ever seen, he reported to the team. The weapons don't just fire projectiles. They fire living things that hunt their targets. Meanwhile, Tae-ho's engineering teams worked on the ship's propulsion systems. Human fusion technology merged with ethereal bioenergy created engines that could bend space-time around the vessel. We're not just making it faster, he explained during a briefing. We're making it able to exist in multiple dimensions at once. The ship can phase in and out of normal space. But the most important work was happening in the neural link chambers. More pilots had volunteered for the connection process. Each link taught Viridian Prime more about human consciousness, and taught the humans more about the ship's capabilities. We're becoming something new, Yoonji told Hana after her latest session. Not fully human, not fully alien, but something that has never existed before. Are you still you? Hana asked with concern. Yoonji smiled, but her eyes held depths that seemed impossible for a human mind. I'm more me than I've ever been, but I'm also more than me. The political tensions came to a head 6 months before the projected arrival of the Devourer scouts. General Wu Jin attempted to seize control of the project, claiming that the ship was becoming too dangerous for civilian oversight. Look at what's happening to the pilots, he argued during a heated meeting. They're losing their humanity. This thing is changing them into something else. Into something better, Yoonji replied calmly. Something capable of fighting an enemy that pure humans could never defeat. You're proving my point. You're not human anymore. I'm human plus, she said. We all are. Everyone who has linked with the ship carries part of its knowledge now. We see patterns that others miss. We understand connections that were invisible before. Dr. So Young had been studying the biological changes in the linked pilots. The alterations aren't random, she reported. The ship is enhancing human capabilities in specific ways. Faster reflexes, improved pattern recognition, enhanced spatial awareness. It's turning them into better pilots and strategists. At what cost? Wu Jin demanded. At the cost of our limitations, Yang answered. The linked pilots can process information faster than any computer we've ever built. They can see solutions to problems that would take our best minds weeks to solve. The argument was settled when deep space sensors detected the first Devourer scout ship entering the solar system. The enemy was early and they were already probing Earth's defenses. The scouts are here, Admiral Jinwoo announced. All political arguments are now irrelevant. We fight with what we have or we die as we are. The ship, now officially named Terra's Wrath, had been transformed beyond recognition. Its hull gleamed with a mixture of living crystal and human metals. Weapons ports covered its surface like the eyes of some ancient sea creature. Inside, corridors flowed like arteries, carrying both human crew members and the ship's own life systems. How many pilots can link with the ship simultaneously? Hana asked during the final preparation meeting. 5, Viridian Prime replied. More than that would overwhelm both human and ship consciousness. Yunji would be the primary pilot. 4 others had been selected from the volunteers. Minho, a former fighter pilot. Su Jin, a systems engineer who had shown natural aptitude for the neural link. Jae Sung, a mathematician whose mind worked well with the ship's calculations. And Young Suk, a biologist who understood the ship's living systems better than anyone except So Young herself. Are we ready? Jinwoo asked. Hana looked around the command center. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, and civilians worked side by side. Humans and alien technology had become so integrated that it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. As ready as we can be, she replied, then let's see what humanity can do when it refuses to accept defeat. The Admiral said. Terra's Wrath began to rise from the ocean floor. Water cascaded from its hull as it broke the surface for the first time in 800 years. But this was no longer the crashed alien vessel that Dr. Hana Kim had discovered. This was something entirely new. A weapon that thought like a human and fought like a living creature. A ship that carried the hopes of an entire species and the knowledge of an ancient civilization. The transformation was complete. Now came the test. 3 months had passed since Viridian Prime awakened. Deep Haven had grown into an underwater city. Scientists and engineers from every nation worked together in the pressurized habitats, studying the alien ship with desperate urgency. Dr. Kyungmin Yang spent most of his time connected to the ship's computer systems. The alien technology was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Instead of circuits and processors, the ship used living networks that thought and learned like a brain. It's incredible, he told Hana during one of their daily briefings. The ship doesn't just process information. It feels it, understands it. Every system is alive. Hana nodded as she reviewed the latest reports. Progress was slow but steady. Teams had mapped most of the ship's interior. Engineers led by Taeho were learning how the organic systems worked. So Young's biology team studied samples of the living hull material, but they all knew they were racing against time. Viridian Prime, Hana said, speaking to the ship's intelligence. Tell us more about these devourers. What exactly are we facing? The ship's walls glowed brighter as the AI responded. They are ancient machines, older than my people, older than most star systems. They were created by a race that died out millions of years ago, but the machines lived on. Holographic images appeared in the air, showing the history Viridian Prime described. The humans watched in horror as entire star systems were consumed by mechanical swarms. They do not destroy for conquest or resources, the AI continued. They devour civilizations to fuel their growth. Every planet they consume makes them stronger. Every species they eliminate adds to their knowledge. Captain Yunji Ro, a military pilot who had joined the project, studied the images with a professional eye. What are their weaknesses? Every enemy has weaknesses. They are logical, predictable in their methods. They analyze, adapt, overcome. This is both their strength and their limitation. They cannot understand chaos, cannot predict true randomness. And you think humans can provide that chaos? Asked Donghyun Kang, a systems engineer who specialized in weapons design. Your species is unique in my experience. You make decisions that seem illogical but prove effective. You solve problems in ways that should not work but do. This unpredictability might be the key to victory. Admiral Jinwoo arrived for the briefing, his face grim. We've received troubling news from our deep space monitoring stations. Strange signals are coming from the outer solar system, signals that match the patterns Viridian Prime described. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. How much time do we have? Hana asked. Based on the signal strength and movement patterns, I estimate the scout ships will arrive within 2 years, Viridian Prime replied. The main fleet will follow 6 months later. Then we need to accelerate our timeline, Jinwoo said. What do you need from us, Viridian Prime? This ship was designed as a living weapon, but it requires more than repair. It needs evolution. Your technology must merge with mine. Your minds must join with my consciousness. Dr. Yang leaned forward with interest. What kind of joining? Pilots who can link directly with my systems. Humans who can think alongside me. Combining your chaotic creativity with my processing power, together we might create something the Devourers cannot understand or counter. Is it safe? So Young asked with concern. I do not know. No organic being has ever attempted such a link with ethereal technology. But without it, this ship cannot reach its full potential. Yunji stepped forward without hesitation. I volunteer to be the first test pilot. Captain, we don't know what the risks are, Jinwoo warned. Admiral, with respect, we don't have time to be careful. If this is humanity's best chance for survival, someone has to take the risk. Over the following weeks, Yang worked with Viridian Prime to design the neural interface system. They combined human brain-computer technology with the ship's organic networks. The result was unlike anything ever created. The first test was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Yunji lay on a biomechanical bed that had grown from the ship's floor. Thin tendrils of living crystal touched her temples, connecting her nervous system to the ship's consciousness. Neural link established, Yang reported from his monitoring station. Brain activity is incredible. She's processing information at impossible speeds. Through the link, Yunji could feel the entire ship as if it were her own body. Every system, every sensor, every weapon became an extension of herself. But more than that, she could sense Viridian Prime's vast intelligence alongside her own thoughts. It's beautiful, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I can feel everything. The ocean currents, the energy flowing through the ship's systems, the stars above us. How do you feel? Hana asked. Like I'm more than human. Like I'm something new. The test lasted only 10 minutes, but the results were incredible. During the link, the ship's efficiency increased by 300%. Damaged systems began repairing themselves. Weapons that had been dormant for centuries came online. This is it, Viridian Prime announced after the test ended. This is how we can win. Human minds linked with ethereal technology. The Devourers will never see it coming. But the victory came with costs. When Yunji disconnected from the ship, she was changed. Her reflexes were faster, her mind sharper. But something in her eyes was different. She seemed to see beyond the present moment, as if part of her remained connected to the ship. The link leaves traces, Yang observed, studying her brain scans. Each connection changes the pilot permanently. Are you willing to continue? Jinwoo asked Yunji. She didn't hesitate. Admiral, I've seen what we can become. What we must become. Yes, I'll continue. As word of the successful test spread through Deep Haven, volunteers stepped forward. Pilots, engineers, even scientists wanted to try the neural link. They all understood the price they might pay, but they also understood the stakes. Taeho made a breakthrough in the engineering sections. By combining human manufacturing techniques with the ship's organic growth systems, they could repair and enhance the vessel far faster than either technology could alone. We're not just fixing the ship, he explained to the team. We're evolving it. Human steel and ceramics fused with living crystal. Conventional engines working alongside bioenergy systems. It's becoming something completely new. So Young made an equally important discovery in the biological labs. The ship's living systems can adapt and learn from human DNA. It's starting to incorporate our genetic patterns into its own structure. What does that mean? Hana asked. It means the ship is becoming part human, just like the human pilots are becoming part ship. We're creating a true hybrid. As the months passed, the impossible began to seem possible. The crashed alien vessel was transforming into something that had never existed before. Part ethereal technology, part human engineering, part living organism. But they all knew their time was running out. Deep space sensors detected more signals from the outer solar system. The enemy scouts were getting closer. We have 18 months to complete the transformation, Viridian Prime announced during their final briefing of the year. 18 months to create a weapon that can stand against an enemy that has conquered 1,000 worlds. Hana looked around at her team. They were tired, changed by their work, but determined. Then we'll make it work, she said. We have to. Outside the underwater base, the alien ship pulsed with new life. Human technology flowed through its systems like blood through veins. In its core, organic computers dreamed of battle strategies that no purely logical mind could comprehend. The awakening was complete. Now came the real test. The deep-sea research vessel rocked gently on the Pacific Ocean's surface. Dr. Hana Kim stood at the control panel, watching the sonar readings with growing excitement. 4 kilometers below them, something massive lay hidden on the ocean floor. Are you sure these readings are correct? Asked Taeho Park, the ship's chief engineer. He leaned over Hana's shoulder, studying the strange patterns on the screen. I've checked them 3 times, Hana replied. Whatever is down there, it's not natural. Look at these geometric shapes. The sonar showed something that looked like a giant crystal buried in the seafloor. It was over 200 meters long and 60 meters wide. The shape was too perfect, too smooth to be a rock formation. Dr. So-Young Lee joined them at the controls. As the team's xenobiologist, she had experience with unusual discoveries. Could it be an old ship? She asked. Not like any ship I've ever seen, Taeho said. The material density is all wrong. It's too light for metal, too heavy for plastic. Hana made her decision. We're going down. Prepare the deep-sea submersible. 2 hours later, the 3 scientists descended into the dark waters of the Mariana Trench. The submersible's powerful lights cut through the black water as they went deeper and deeper. Fish with glowing bodies swam past their windows like living stars. 4,000 meters, Taeho announced. We're getting close. Suddenly, their lights hit something that made all 3 scientists gasp. Rising from the seafloor like a fallen mountain was a ship unlike anything on Earth. Its surface looked like black crystal, smooth and flowing as if it had been grown rather than built. Strange patterns covered its hull, glowing faintly with blue-green light. My God, So-Young whispered. It's beautiful. The ship had crashed nose first into the ocean floor. Its rear section rose up at an angle, partially buried in mud and coral growth. But even covered in 800 years of ocean life, its alien design was clear. This is not human, Hana said quietly. This is something else entirely. They spent the next hour taking pictures and measurements. The ship showed signs of terrible damage. Great tears ran along its sides and part of its hull had been ripped away. But the strange material had not rusted or decayed like human metal would have. The energy readings are incredible, Taeho said, checking his instruments. There's still power in this thing. After all these years underwater, how is that possible? So-Young asked. I don't know, but we need to tell people about this. The world needs to know. When they returned to the surface, Hana immediately contacted her superiors. Within hours, encrypted messages flew between government offices around the world. By the next morning, military ships surrounded their research vessel. Admiral Jin Woo Choi arrived by helicopter. He was a tall, serious man who commanded respect wherever he went. He studied the pictures and data with careful eyes. Dr. Kim, he said finally, what you found changes everything. This discovery is now classified at the highest level. But Admiral, Hana protested, this belongs to all humanity. Scientists around the world should study this. And they will, Jinwoo replied. But carefully, safely. We don't know what we're dealing with here. Within a week, a massive operation began. Ships carrying construction equipment arrived from around the world. Deep-sea habitats were lowered to the ocean floor. A permanent research base called Deep Haven was built directly above the crashed ship. Hana found herself appointed as the chief scientist of the United Earth Recovery Project. Her small team of 3 had grown to over 200 specialists. Engineers, physicists, biologists, and military experts worked together in the underwater base. The first breakthrough came when they managed to cut through the ship's hull. The inside was even stranger than the outside. Corridors curved and flowed like the inside of a seashell. The walls seemed to be alive, covered in veins of glowing material. It's organic, So-Young reported during their first team meeting inside Deep Haven. This ship was grown, not built. It's like a giant living creature. But it's also technology, added Dr. Kyung-Min Yang, a computer expert who had joined the team. I'm detecting data networks throughout the structure. It's like the ship's nervous system. Tejo led the engineering team deeper into the vessel. They found rooms filled with strange equipment, crystals that hummed with energy, tanks filled with unknown liquids, control panels covered in symbols that looked more like art than writing. The power source is incredible, he reported. It's still producing energy after 800 years. If we could understand how it works, we could change the world. But the most amazing discovery came 3 weeks later. Deep inside the ship's core, they found a chamber filled with floating crystals. As soon as Kyungmin connected his computer to one of them, the entire ship came alive. Lights flickered on throughout the vessel. The organic walls began to pulse with life, and then impossibly a voice spoke to them in perfect English. "Greetings," the voice said, calm and musical. "I am Viridian Prime, mindkeeper of this vessel. I have been waiting for someone to wake me." The human stood frozen in shock. Hana was the first to find her voice. You can speak our language?" "I have been listening to your world for many centuries," Viridian Prime replied. "Your radio signals, your television broadcasts, your internet. I have learned much about humanity while I slept." "What are you?" So Young asked. "I am what you might call an artificial intelligence, though that term does not fully capture what I am. I am the living mind of this ship, created by a race you might call the Ethereals." "Where are they now?" Jinwoo asked. There was a long pause. When Viridian Prime spoke again, sadness filled its voice. "Gone. Destroyed by an enemy that devours worlds. My people sent me to find allies, to warn others. But my ship was damaged, and I crashed here long before your species was ready." "Ready for what?" Hana asked. "For war," Viridian Prime said. "The enemy that destroyed my people is still out there. They consume everything in their path. Planets, stars, entire civilizations. And they are coming this way." The chamber fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's systems. Finally, Admiral Jinwoo stepped forward. "How long do we have?" "By my calculations, they will reach your solar system in less than 5 years. But there is hope. This ship was designed to fight them. If your people can help me repair it, if you can learn to work with my systems, we might have a chance." Hana looked around at her team. Fear and determination mixed on their faces. They had come looking for scientific knowledge. Instead, they had found humanity's greatest challenge and possibly its salvation. "Then we'd better get to work," she said.